Game day. Everything you did all week leads to this moment. The talk, the noise, the predictions. None of it matters once that ball is kicked. Today, it's the Hoosiers versus Penn State, and the opportunity is right in front of them. We're breaking down the keys to the game, what the offense must establish early, how the defense controls the line.
Welcome into Coach Griff's pregame primer. Sorry, I got the wrong intro there. That's not good on a game day Saturday at 10:30 in the morning. But being all that and it's senior day, I'm a little excited for this afternoon's game between Indiana and the Wisconsin Badgers. Hello again, everybody. I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith, and my apologies for that intro there. Living in the fame of last week by this Indiana Hoosier team. So I apologize for that. Big game today in Bloomington. As I said, Wisconsin this afternoon, noon kickoff, BTN in Bloomington Memorial Stadium in Indiana. Into this ball game. And if they win, would be was a not very that they've been covering the and they had played what we would call a very, very, very difficult. Excuse me there for the little bit of technical difficulties as we experienced there. And I apologize for that as we get back live here. A lot of gremlins this morning in this broadcast already has had a little bit of a setback there, but I'm back on. And hopefully if you are in the chat, you can let me know as well if that is possible. By all means, let me know with the thumbs up if you are watching, but I'm going to continue until otherwise told. But anyway, this Wisconsin team was able to get a huge win last week against Washington. They're in Camp Randall. And another thing about this Wisconsin team, their defense is very good. They've only allowed 111 yards per game rushing thus far in the 2025 season and only 22 points a game. So their defense is fully capable of keeping them close and in the ball game. And if their offense can find any form of rhythm at all, they're going to have a chance. And against Indiana today, while their offense has struggled mightily, Wisconsin, that is, playing a true freshman at quarterback, Carter Smith, and also seeing Hunter Simons today, Indiana's defense will have to be very well prepared. And if they can do what they're capable of, they can shut down this Wisconsin offense. But the thing about the scenario today is Indiana's offensive run game. They're going to have to find ways to run the ball against this stout Wisconsin front. And as I said on Thursday, Indiana's rushing offense this against teams like Penn State, against teams like Oregon, and teams like the game they had against Michigan State where they only rushed for 132 yards on the day. They've only averaged like 113 yards against stout front sevens, and that is a concern. And today will be a good day for them to get the running game established early and often, Hemby and Black, and find ways to utilize those two kids in the backfield today, not just handing the ball off to them, but even throwing it to them, be it screen passes and things of that magnitude, to slow down this defensive front four for Wisconsin will be vitally important on the year, or on the day, for Indiana to come out with a victory. One thing that you can bet assure when you look at the statistics of this Wisconsin team, you can look right here, right now, where Indiana were going to have their hands full in this respect. That Indiana right now, 44.5 points a game scored to 12.6 for Wisconsin. Indiana first in rushing yardage, 23.19 in the Big Ten and in the country. But at the same time, against teams that have a stout front seven, they've only rushed for 113 yards on average. Passing game has been very good all year. Right now, it is fourth overall. And then total offense, they fall to number 2 under the 500 yard per game mark. USC has the top spot, but Indiana is right there at number 2. And Wisconsin boasts a 255.6 yards of offense a game, which is last in the Big Ten. Third down conversions, you can see Indiana does quite well, except for fourth down. And when you look at points off of turnovers for Indiana this year, huge, 82 points off of turnovers on the year. So if Indiana can take advantage of this Wisconsin team, who is a -6 in turnover margin, Indiana could get some vital points off of that statistic as well. And we'll find out for the biggest part of it when you talk about Indiana's offense. They're going to have to find ways to also keep this Wisconsin defense off balance for the better part of the day. And I know that Fernando Mendoza, who's played very, very well for the better part of the year, again, is going to be a key ingredient for Indiana to have success today, is the fact that they're going to have to find ways to utilize him, not just in the pocket, but also out on the perimeter as well, by getting him outside the pocket, change the launch points, get some bootlegs, maybe some nakeds in the game. And then you look at the defensive stats of these two teams. Indiana is topping about every category. You can see the rushing defense for Wisconsin right now is 7th overall in the conference at 111.3 yards per game on the ground, 22.3 points given up. And then total defense, they are 11th in the Big Ten, where Indiana is 4th. Indiana overall is 2nd in rush defense and have done very well in that category all year, and therefore have been very dominant on this side of the football, especially there. I know it's in small print, especially in third down conversion areas. Indiana, 27%. That is a phenomenal statistic, that offensive teams are only able to convert third down conversions 27% of the time. That's incredible in that regard, as is red zone touchdowns, only 29% of the time. Overall sacks, Indiana at 31, and then Indiana is 2nd in the nation at +13 in turnover margin on the year, which has been a huge benefit for this Indiana team all year long when it comes to getting turnovers, especially in key situations. So the tail of the tape says Indiana should be very dominant against this Wisconsin team just from a defensive standpoint. But when you look at offense comparing against this Wisconsin defense, you can see the red flag there when it comes to running the football. Indiana will have to find ways to create running advantages for them against Wisconsin, who will play very tough up front. They swarmed and smothered Wisconsin a week ago. I'm sorry, Washington a week ago. And Washington had been a pretty darn good team throughout the year offensively, except against Wisconsin. And they had a hard time moving the football against them. And Oregon, even though they won 21-7, that was out in Oregon. That ball game was a tight ball game up through the third quarter. And Oregon really didn't start running the football with any authority until in the third quarter when they started to get on track in that ball game. So things to look for in this ball game today. Can Indiana get off to a great start, especially in the run game? If they have trouble running the football and become one-dimensional in their attack, they are going to have a hard time of moving the ball against this stingy Wisconsin defense. And if you give a team like this any sign of hope, any indication that they have a chance, you will get a hard-fought, tooth-and-nail football game, just like Indiana was a week ago at Penn State when they were up 20-7 early in the third quarter, and then Penn State went on a 17-point run that gave them the lead 24-20 with a minute and 30 some odd seconds left in the game before Mendoza's heroics. So those are things that you got to consider in this ball game, and it's going to be a big game for Indiana in the sense, like I said earlier, they are playing for something today. This is not a meaningless game. This is a game to get them into the Big Ten championship. This is a game to continue to secure a top 4 CFP ranking. So a lot rides on today's game today in Bloomington. The one other thing to point out in this is some of these key players that we're going to see today, especially from this Wisconsin Badger team. And they are a very capable team when it comes to some of their athletes. This one here is with their best cover corner in Ricardo Hallman, 7 interceptions a year ago. He's the guy to take a big look at when it comes to who they put him on. If Elijah Surratt's able to go today, you can rest assured this will be a man that will be over Indiana's best receiver. Yeah, Joe, thanks for coming and watching here this morning. Last home game of the season and a beautiful November day, going to be in the upper 60s. And whenever can we say a game's been in November this nice in Bloomington, therefore the country, and going to enjoy this weather today there in Bloomington. The other quarterback situation there at Wisconsin, you have Carter Smith. He's the true freshman, 4-star out of Fort Myers, Florida. He hasn't thrown the ball very much. It's a thing that they have struggled with this year, but he's a guy that is the future of this Wisconsin football team, and he's a solid quarterback. And for a young kid, he's very composed. He has the ability to be that runner as well when needed, but he's a guy to keep your eye on, as is Hunter Simons, the guy that is a portal transfer from Southern Illinois. He only played 5 games last season there for the Salukis before his season ended, but you can see he threw for 852 yards and 3 TDs just in 5 games. This year he's thrown 5 picks, but he's completing only about 51% of his throws. And he's the guy that's probably the better thrower of the two. And part of that is experience, but you will see probably both of these guys today. In the backfield, you can look at this Gideon. He's a redshirt freshman, averaging 4.4 yards a carry thus far. He had over 2,000 yards as a high school senior, but a very solid guy, very similar to Kalon Black. And then Dupree, the other one, get a little bit more, I guess you could say, speed out of Mount Carmel, very good high school there in Illinois, also a 4-star recruit. So they got two capable backs. They've had trouble running the ball up front against a very, big size, prototypical offensive line that you will see from Wisconsin, but they have struggled running it this year. The top receiver is Vinny Anthony on the outside. He's their game breaker. That's the guy they like to go to in situations one-on-one. And he has made some big plays this year. Last year, he led the team in yards and 672 yards on the year, averaging 17.2 yards per catch. This year, right now, 291, 11.2 in an pass offense that has struggled. But when they need to throw it up deep, they're going to throw it up to him. And philosophically, this Wisconsin team is a team built on power and counter run games where they like to really bang it up inside. And if you find you cheating, they're going to throw it over the top of you. One big thing they've got this year is a kid out of Missouri State, portal transfer, Lance Mason. He's been one of their most productive receivers. 281 yards a game on the season, 281 yards so far, but averaging 12.2 and 3 touchdowns. So you can see he's a pretty important factor, especially in their red zone offense. But he's a guy Indiana is going to have to keep in check. When you look at this defense, look no further than Cooper Catalano, freshman, 3-star, set the Wisconsin tackling record as a senior. And this young man, although a freshman, has played pretty decently for them since he's been inserted in the lineup. And then when you look for the edge rushers, Daryl Peterson, he's a very quick 6'1", 260 guy, 1 sack on the year, 6 TFLs. Very quick. So Carter Smith and Benson are going to have their hands full, not just with him, but the Sebastian Cheeks. He's one of their guys that you call pass rush specialists. 3 sacks on the year, 5 TFL. So a very capable guy off the edge. So Carter Smith and Khalil Benson, we're going to have their hands full with these edge rushers today. And this is where I think Indiana's got to think of throwing the screen game when they can. Let's see. Wisconsin wants to get their opponents into a rock. Well, that is pretty much true. Mission forward. Appreciate you coming by today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying this November weather. And they did that. They suffocated Washington pretty much all day long. And Cheeks was a big part of that defense last week that did that and did it very well. The other kid in this category is Mason Regier. He is a grad transfer from Louisville. He had 5 sacks a year ago. Again, 6'5", 248. He's already has 3.5 sacks and 4.5 TFLs. So he's a young man that can play bully football. And what this defense likes to do, they like Mason stipulated there, they want to fist fight you in that respect. They want to put you in a square room essentially and keep you from getting to the outside. So those 3 guys are pretty important to their defense. And then you've got the big fellas up front. Ben Barton, 6'5", 330. Again, this is a guy that won't overwow you with speed or lateral quickness, but he will wow you with strength. He's a guy that likes to penetrate. That's what this defense is about. And when he has to, he is a guy that can be a bully on the inside, as well as Parker Peterson, who is also a transfer from Tulane, who had 4.5 sacks a year ago. So you're going to have to watch those guys today for this Wisconsin defense, because they are a very, very capable football team when it comes to, as I keep hitting buttons, as you can see, I'm not very good at this. But anyway, this football team, especially defensively, is a team that is very, very good in their front 7, and their secondary is decent as well. And they're pretty darn good in the back half. Their problem is they've been on the field way too much this year. They've also lost field position battles where opponent offenses have gotten short fields against them. And that has led to the fact when you have an very unproductive offense, it puts your defense in a very big bind. And that's what's really hurt Wisconsin this year when it comes to wins and losses. Very good defense, not a so good offense. Part of that has been offensively is where they've had a lot of their injuries, especially when you think Billy Edwards Jr., the transfer from Maryland, the quarterback who had an outstanding career at Maryland, especially a year ago, came to Wisconsin and was hurt in game 1 and has not seen the field since and has lost the entire season. And from that point forward, they've even lost another quarterback to injury. And so you can see they're down to their third and fourth team on the offensive side of the ball. Our Joe Moore finalist O-line is going to have to play like it today. Yeah. There's no question. And that's what I was saying there, Mission, is the same thing that you're referencing there today, is if Fernando has some time to maneuver and to read the defense, they can have success throwing the football. And Indiana's had success all year throwing the football for the better part of the year. And there's no indication today, other than maybe a very windy day in Bloomington, that will change. Now, Fernando at times has struggled early on in games, but for the most part, he's been pretty much on point all year. One thing that I was saying on Thursday night on the Hoosier tailgate was Indiana, outside of going against stronger front defensive teams like Wisconsin, like Penn State, like Oregon, where they're only averaging 113 yards on the ground. Those games, Fernando has been very good in the passing game, and they've gotten their big plays on the outside. But when you get into this time of the year, you got to be able to run the football. It hurt them a week ago in Happy Valley. Their inconsistencies on first and second down led to third and longs, and their conversion rate on third down a week ago was the worst of the year. Same thing holds true today. They got to have success first and second down. That's another thing to keep an eye on today. Indiana, if they're having success on first and second down efficiency, 4 to 5 yards on average, setting up more third and medium and third and shorts, then that's going to tell you Indiana's on point on offense and everything's working as needed against this defense. Indiana also has got to help the offense and the offensive line by changing the launch point of Fernando. When they throw the ball, they've also got to figure out different type of running schemes, because the inside zone against a team that likes to penetrate with their defense is not a good sign, because that is what hurts about any run game, but especially zone plays, because a penetrating defense on zone is very difficult to get them moving, because they like to sit in there and bully it up. So that's where I said Indiana's got to do some gap run schemes or some speed sweep type of concepts to either get the ball to the outside, or if you're going to bang it up and go right at this defense, which I agree you have to, you got to be able to run the power counter game on top of the RPO game and be able to keep them off balance that way. Let's see here. I really like screens. Yeah, exactly. We're kind of on the same wavelength there, Mission. Scary. Wisconsin's defense may keep it close, but I expect IU to win by at least 2 touchdowns. Well, I hope that is a very true statement there, Joe, and I do think that Indiana will have that opportunity, but it does come down to the efficiency the offensive shows on first and second down. And if they don't give a team like Wisconsin any hope, and they get on them at the start of the ball game and start putting drives together and scores together, this Wisconsin team, like you said, will eventually fold in that third quarter, second half, whatever it may be, because they're just getting beat. But if you give them any hope, especially on offense, where they're having a day moving the ball against a very difficult Indiana defense, you're going to get their best game. They'll be like sharks in the water and, with blood in the water. So that will be the pivotal thing. And like I said, for Indiana's offense, efficiency, first and second down, conversion downs, and then success in the red zone, which they've done pretty much all year. That can lead to another win, securing a Big Ten championship bid, as well securing their top 4 ranking in the college football playoffs. But we'll have to see in that respect on how that all plays out today. Some of the objectives that I outlined earlier this week, and when it came to this ball game, and as you can see here on offense, where Indiana, I think, needs to have at least 185 yards on the ground. If they can do that, that's a positive. If they can throw for 275, that's another thing that I think will be key against this Wisconsin pass defense. They're giving up 220, and the reason why they're giving up that many yards throwing to a degree, and that's not a lot of yards in today's game, is because their run defense has been so good. They got to win the money downs of third down or fourth down if they go for it. 100% points in the red zone, and then Indiana, I think, has to score 30-plus points and give them a great chance at winning. Defensively, again, this is where Indiana holds its biggest advantage when you look at this ball game. Wisconsin's only averaging 115 yards on the ground. Indiana, 80 yards would be a pivotal point, even though they're only giving up 87. So I think they can hold them to under what Indiana's giving up. Pass defense today is critical. They're only giving up Indiana. Wisconsin's only averaging 140 yards through the year. Indiana's pass defense is, like I said, 4th in the Big Ten with over 200 and some yards a game. So if Indiana can hold Wisconsin to that average, they're going to be smothering against this and hold them to no more than 13 points on the day, because Wisconsin is only averaging about 13 in that respects. Yeah, this is, like I said, this is where the biggest differential is, Mission. 5th for Indiana total defense is number 5. Wisconsin is like 133rd in the nation. So that is, you're correct in that respect, is that suffocating defense that Indiana has got to be a huge advantage today. And this has got to be a big category. Win the turnover battle. Indiana's like plus 14, plus 13 on the year. Wisconsin's -6. So you can see they have a tendency to turn the ball over, and Indiana's been very good in generating takeaways. Another key component of today's game, guys, is special teams. I like to see our punt team get more aggressive again, at least averaging about 15 yards a return if possible, and set up a score with a kick game, which they were doing earlier in the season. Of course, 100% of PATs and field goal under 35 yards for field goals. That's not been a problem for Indiana this year. They've been very good in their point after attempts and field goals. So that, again, is key. And then win the field position battle, because that's ultimately going to give Indiana a better chance of having the ability to drive a short field and put Wisconsin's offense in the hole and give them the long field to drive today in Bloomington for Indiana to come out with a win. The other thing to note is Indiana has been very good this year at getting scores right before the half. They've done it pretty much all season, where they've taken the 2-minute offense prior to halftime and gone down the field and got points, which has been vitally important. It was important a week ago against Penn State, because they went in at halftime up 17-7, and that it was critical in that ball game a week ago, and one of those pivotal points in the game as well, and all that. Yeah, winning the field position stops the rock fight. I agree, Mission. Appreciate that one. in your very candid way of putting it. I agree with you. But again, Indiana today, a lot of things to play for. Big Ten championship bid, remain in the top 4 of the college football playoffs, and also last game of the regular season in Memorial Stadium 2025. Indiana's been perfect at home under Kurt Signetti. That has got to be worth a touchdown in today's ball game. So, and all that being said, Indiana is in good hands when they're at home, especially against when Indiana has a sellout crowd on hand. I want to appreciate you guys for joining me here this morning in this Coach Griff's pregame primer of number 2 Indiana versus Wisconsin. Remember, about 30 minutes after the game today, join Jim Coyle and myself for the Indiana Sports Beat post-game show. We will have that up on our X account so that you know when that will be. And normally we say around 4 o'clock in a game like today, 3:30ish, 4 o'clock. You can expect that. Come back and join us as we have a nice discussion of what takes place today there in Memorial Stadium on Senior Day, and also have a chance for you guys to ask questions or comments like we always do for full participation. That's what we like to have, is your guys' input when we talk about Indiana football. Well, enjoy the game today. Enjoy festivities. If you're in Bloomington at a tailgate right now, by all means, it's time to head to the stadium and get ready for today's big game here at noon between Indiana and Wisconsin. For now, I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. You've been watching Coach Griff's pregame primer, all here on the Hoosier Tailgate on thehoosier.com. We'll see you after the game, everybody.
Thank you.